Welcome to the Transition Alliance of South Carolina's video learning opportunity webinar on free curriculum resources to promote student engagement and self-determination. At this time, I'd like to introduce you to your presenter, Dr. Jennifer Wall.
Good morning, and thank you guys for joining us today for our webinar on self-determination and student engagement. We think it's a great time to talk about breaking down the components of self-determined behavior and see how we can support students during this time. First, we wanted to start out by brainstorming the idea, why do we teach self-determination to students with disabilities? Well, the first thing that probably comes to all of our mind is that the law mandates it. The law mandates that students will attend and are engaged in transition planning process, their IEP meetings. We know that research supports and shows us that developing self-determination skills will help us increase those post-school outcomes for our students. And then many resources are out there that have been identified as evidence-based practices to support our students in transition planning and IEP involvement. But is self-determination only displayed during IEP or transition meetings? Let's think about this. If self-determination is not only displayed in meetings or only showed in transition settings, why are we teaching this? Immediately, all of us educators are thinking, well, we want to teach our students to have the ability to stand up for themselves. They need to be advocates. They need to lead their own meetings. They need to take charge. But if we really think about this, isn't self-determination truly a skill that we all need to survive? And we all need to have a high quality of life? We need self-awareness. We need creativity. We need assertiveness, pride, self-advocacy skills, right? So who has a lesson plan on pride? Could we write a lesson plan to teach these skills? I mean, as an individual, I demand a high quality of life, and I need you to teach me right now how to have one. Well, as teachers, we know that that's not how it works. We have to teach all the components of a skill for our students to even learn the basics to get to a place where they're able to display any of those learned behaviors. So let's talk about the important components of self-determination. So you can look into research, you can look into curriculum, or you can just simply Google self-determination, and you're going to find various terms of components in terms of self-determination. The ones that are on your screen have been defined by DCDT, which is our Division on Career Development and Transition, which is our part of the Council for Exceptional Children, and our transition experts in the field have identified these as important components. So we're going to stick to these. There's a lot of words on this slide, but if we really look at this, there's even more skills embedded with each of these components. So now what we're all wondering is, where am I going to start? If I have to teach all of those components to get to self-determined behavior, how can I get all of this done? How do I know where to start? And so a great place to start is with student assessment. Thankfully, we have some really great tools that have already been developed for us that break down all of these components of self-determination and really dive into the behaviors that are associated with the skills needed and not just self-determination as a whole. We've been working on self-determination skills for years, and it's really difficult to go into a classroom or a school or a district and say, okay, we're going to teach self-determination, because we have to think about those individual skills and not just self-determination as a whole, because no lesson plan is developed to teach self-determination within one day. Just like none of the other skills that we teach our students are taught that quickly. So the screenshots that I put on your screen here are from the American Institute for Research, AIR, on self-determination. And what's really cool about this example is the student fills out a component, the parent fills out a component, and then the teacher or caregiver could fill out a component. This is a great tool that you can use because it looks at the differences in perception among the support circle of the student, because you're looking at how the student rates themselves and then how others around them may rate them with those specific components. Another example of getting self-determination data quickly, this is a simple checklist with a rating of how students, you have goal setting, you have participation in meetings, but you have some of those other core components. And on the Transition Alliance website, under resources for assessment is where you will find both of those examples that I just showed on your screen. We have a lot of great tools to support both informal and formal self-determined assessments, and that will help you get started on the components to enhance specific self-determination skills. Also on the website, if you're looking to teach all components of self-determination mentioned in a format that prepares your student to, if that is the goal on the IEP, or that is your goal, is that you want students to participate in the IEP and transition meetings, as well as accommodate for accommodations that they're going to need on the job or in a college setting. We have links and lesson plans on our website organized in a beautiful fashion, thanks to Mike Stutz at Task. He has made this so teacher-friendly for us. We highlighted both the Me curriculum and self-determined transition planning curriculum. Both of those are from the Zero Center out in Oklahoma. But instead of you having to download the 412-page PDF and print and organize for yourself, we have it broken out by lesson. Here on the screen, you see both of those two curricula. These are evidence-based practices and curricula to teach all the components of self-determination. The Me helps lead the student get to those behaviors needed in meetings. Self-directed transition planning, also the same, but also adds those components of advocating for the accommodations that the student may need within the workplace. And then the other component would be if the student is transitioning to a college campus and accessing the accommodations at disability services specific to that student's accommodation and needs. So if this is what you are looking for, then this is a great place for you to come get your research-based curriculum and wonderful resources for your classroom library. Now, however, if you see in your student assessment data that there's just individual components that your students need to focus on, then you need to prepare your students just in those specific areas. I know when I taught high school, many of my students needed some of these skills to be self-advocates, but they may have already learned some of the other skills or mastered some of them, but maybe they hadn't had the opportunity to practice those skills in certain settings. The first four listed are skills in self-determination that I think we should spend time teaching all students, not just students with disabilities. Making choices, a process of actually making a decision, setting goals, solving problems. And honestly, during this remote time for learning, I really think we can definitely support our students in a variety of ways to gain and practice these skills with our support. A resource on our website that we have found useful in teaching some of these skills is a curriculum called Overcoming Obstacles. You do not have to teach each of the modules that are in this curriculum. You can pick the ones that are appropriate. As an educator, I always found that it was helpful when things were divided into modules in this fashion, especially when I was trying to teach skills in isolation, because that way, if I pick up on module 3, my student hadn't missed something in module 2, or there wasn't any build upon activities or learning from a previous module that I would need to feel like I needed to catch up on. So that's one of the benefits of that. This resource is free, and it is not free just during the COVID-19 time, as I know some of our wonderful resources have been free during this time, but this curriculum is always free. You do have to register for an account. They do not overwhelm you with emails. It was really quick. I signed up a couple weeks ago to help a teacher with a specific lesson plan, and it was really easy and teacher friendly. One of the cool things about this curriculum is it does have a middle school and high school curriculum. So if you are teaching students that are transitioning into high school, those 13 and 14-year-olds that we're trying to get into those self-determined behaviors, they do have different age levels. And this is just a screenshot of my home screen. One other cool thing is they do have a student assessment that is specific to their modules. But what's really cool is that it aligns directly to the self-determined behaviors that we were talking about. And it's quick and easy to gather the data on how the student views themselves in each of these areas. Now, each of the modules has several lessons within them. I just wanted to show some of the examples that are on this because the confidence building module, I really, really love this because it's broken down into skills needed for actual confidence and going beyond just identifying strengths and weaknesses. Of course, when we're teaching self-determination, we always want our students to be able to have those self-awareness behaviors, but that's not an easy lesson to teach. It's not an easy lesson to teach students about their disability. It's not an easy lesson to get students to identify as being a person with a disability. Sometimes we have to really dive into some history lessons and teach students that as Americans, we've always had to fight for our rights and talk about, civil rights and all of the different components, not just 1975 when we got the special education law, but, in all areas. And so helping the student identify and be self-aware. And so I think that really going into identifying strengths, establishing what's important, and developing that personal power, that is a really great lesson to start with some of our students. One of the this is a comprehensive list of the modules. I couldn't get a screenshot that was small enough or big enough so that I could break down the lessons for you guys to see. But you will see the skills that are within self-determination that are clear in some of these modules. One self-determination skill that I would love for us to take time right now to focus on during remote learning and just during this time of our pandemic is decision making. This is such an important skill for our students. I've been thinking about this a lot over the last couple weeks, and this is such an important skill right now because our students are learning to become self-determined adults. But right now, our students are faced daily with more decisions than maybe they had before. They have less interactions with their educators. They have less interactions with their teachers. They probably have less interaction with support staff and adults. We have some students that, are faced with being at home alone and maybe taking care of their siblings or taking care of adult responsibilities. I drive through the city that I live in, and I see more kids hanging out, walking in the street that during a normal work day, I would never see them there. Those would be empty areas. So they're faced with parents working, not home to supervise. And if you go on the internet, social media, pranks are what they see online. And that is where students are as far as, making the TikToks and, engaging with other people is, making pranks or making videos that make other people laugh. So the decision-making process, I think teaching it as a process here on the screen are the 6 steps that are defined in lots of different lesson plans about decision-making. And so making it fun and interactive is something that I know that our educators have done a really awesome job lately, trying to find ways to get our students to engage with them online. Make it fun, make it interactive. So this picture that's on your screen is called Padlet. I made this yesterday, I made it Wednesday. We had our virtual workroom sessions. If you've attended those have been awesome. The teachers have shared some really great resources that they're using to teach different skills. And I really wanted to see how I could make this work for a specific component within self-determination. It was so fun. It was so easy. My idea was not to have a lot of conversations going on at once, but I made this one so that you could see kind of where I was going with it. If I was posting these daily, I might put a funny one and an educational one, like on your screen, what show will you watch on TV tonight? And then I just threw a clip from American Idol so the student could watch. That one's actually a silly video. Or, what TikTok recipe have you actually tried? And then I showed there. But then I threw in, are you looking for a job? Well, then that little simulator that I threw in there is practicing interview skills. So then, what if you're planning to cut your own hair? So obviously the video, that girl on the right, she is literally cutting her hair with a knife. And so, of course, that's a bad decision, but it's also a way to get talking with your students. And then what if you found money? What would you do? So these are just things I, grabbed and threw out there. But follow-up decisions could be, once the student posts, what made this decision easy? What made this one difficult? And we could lead our students to the understanding that consequences are what make decisions difficult. Consequences should make decisions more difficult. So the money one, that's a good place to start. You could do these daily. You could give feedback to your students, and you could teach those 6 skills of decision-making process. You could have a final entry after, school does finally end, where the students have, learned some of these skills and you want to see them implement it with a specific skill. And you could say, hey, our district's trying to decide if remote learning is appropriate for when school starts. Use these 6 steps that we've learned and tell me how you would make this decision if you were on our school board, if you were making the decisions. So there's lots of features within Padlet where our students can or cannot see each other's responses. So you could set this up where, it's like more like journal entries and not necessarily like I have it on the screen as people would post, and then you could post with the student. So another example could be, how are you spending your time? And you could create a chart for the student. And within the chart, the student fills in maybe like 30-minute increments, and they're recording all their activities in one day. So then you follow up with the student by saying, are you accomplishing daily goals? What are you getting done within your activities in this day? What decisions are you making within this day? And then at the end of the day, how would we change what we have? How would we change how we are spending our time? There are so many other resources that are out there to help students with interactive online learning for these specific skills within self-determination. Honestly, I just picked Padlet because it was one of the things that our teachers discussed in the virtual workroom. And I know that there are a lot of other resources. So if there is something out there that you guys are using that you could share with us, we would love to share with other teachers. There are a lot of activities within the other curriculum that are on our website that have really great examples. I pulled just a few things. We're certainly not endorsing any specific curricula. I was just simply showing you things that were on the website and how to get those resources and use the students. There are lots of other examples that I pulled lots of different things for the decision-making process. You definitely could go into choice making and goal setting. One of the resources that was shared at one of the webinars for the National Technical Assistance Center on Transition. This resource is actually available on our virtual transition learning resources document. I hope you visited our website and seen all the amazing resources that are available. Teachers across our state have given us all of these ideas. Again, it's called the virtual transition learning resources document. There's a banner at the top of our website right now, and you click on it and there's so many awesome resources. But I pulled this one because this is a choice board that was shared by the National Center for students to make choices and pick activities using this choice board. Now, I think that there are 3 total within the components that are on our website. I simply just screenshot this one because it did have some choice making skills, decision making that relates to independent living and self-determination. So if you look at these, you could have the student do any of the activities that are on there but they are choosing, making choices of which they're going to do. I really love the apps that have been created for, the working out, the taking care of our health. These are all very important components of taking care of ourselves. And so if the students are moving into goal setting and goal attainment, then they're writing those goals or discussing with their teachers about things that they would like to do, getting outside, doing all of those things, and using the apps and all of the free classes that are available through these virtual resources have been so beneficial for our teachers. I hope each of you have learned about a new resource or are motivated to start teaching a component of self-determination that maybe you hadn't before. We would love to help you and support this work. If you need any resources or ideas or want to be connected to other teachers doing the same work, please reach out to us. That's why we're here. Our website and email address is listed on the screen. We really want you to use our resources and reach out to us whenever you need it. At this time, we're going to take time to answer any of the questions that have been typed into the chat or just discuss any resources or questions that you guys may have. See if I can pull up the chat.
Hey, Jennifer, I guess we'll take a few minutes to see if there's any questions
Okay.
anyone has that might not have, or they might be typing right now. So we'll wait a few minutes just to see. You did such a thorough job. It doesn't appear to be any questions.
Oh, hopefully there were, is that choice? Yes, that choice board is a resource that is linked to our virtual transition learning resources document from the National Technical Assistance Center. Tracy, if you have problems finding it, just shoot us an email and I can send you the direct link.
Okay, first question on the Q&A window. What would be suggestions for how to differentiate tech-based resources for students who have limited access or difficulty utilizing a device?
Okay, repeat that again. Sorry, I was reading one of the questions.
Absolutely. What would be suggestions for how to differentiate tech-based resources for students who have limited access or difficulty utilizing a device?
So there are a lot of these resources can be paper packets. I hope that's what I'm hearing you ask is, if you have limited technology and you are still trying to teach these skills, because all of these lessons can be printed. We have actually, we have some of them even in like picture form instead of like the word. So we definitely can help you, get those resources if you're just simply looking for how to make those into, materials that are not online.
Okay. Next question. Is there anyone that she can speak to help create distance learning for a nonverbal 7th grader with autism?
So that's from, yes, Christy. So we had some really awesome teachers that we worked with in our virtual workroom that definitely had some of those same issues, or some of those same barriers. So what we could do is we could definitely link you up with some of our presenters from those virtual workrooms who have had success with some of the things that they're doing. And so that would definitely help you. Yes. And so overcoming obstacles, that curricula that we spoke about has a life skills remote learning packet, and it has mental health activities in there, dealing with stress, having a positive attitude. That's right. That is, they made that a few weeks ago and sent that out. So if you were registered for overcoming obstacles already, that did come out. And if you're not, we do have that as a PDF, or you can get it off their website. We'll be glad to help. That's great. Thank you, Salisa.
Okay, and just to go off one of the other questions or comments, this webinar will be on recording, plus the presentation will be on the Virtual Learning Resources webpage by the end of the day. And the link to that webpage was in the calendar invite that I sent you a couple of days ago, but we'll be happy to do that as well. We can send that back out to you. And if there aren't any other questions, this will conclude today's webinar. But on that webpage, on the Virtual Transition Resources webpage, we've set up a chat feature and hoping to make it easier for everyone to share ideas and stay connected with peers as we all navigate this together into uncharted territory. Task will be back on Tuesday, May 5th at 10 a.m. with a webinar on assistive technology as it relates to the credential. Oh, thank you, Jennifer. And then again next Thursday for providing virtual support for students with significant cognitive disabilities. You can register for both of those from the Virtual Transition Resources webpage. Thanks, everyone. Have a great day.